give a little shout out to Indigenous Action Media. If you look at their website, I have actually been a guest on several of their podcasts, as well as the book Indigenous Anarchy that I was asked to offer up a writing for, that was basically explaining, you know, my perspective of anarchy, anti-blackness, what have you. It was actually a speech that I gave at an anarchist book fair back in 2016, I would say. So yeah, check those writings or recordings out. And we move to Black anarchism. It's basically anarchism with a Black lens. There's like perspectives on anarcho-blackness. You know, frankly, I kind of feel that there's a lot of parallels and similarities that Black anarchism has with Afro Pessimism. Although I would say that, you know, in the last video that I made, I talk a lot about Afro Pessimism, and that I think Black anarchism is a little less scholarly. I think the people who would call themselves Black anarchists also would likely still work and organize and collaborate with non-Black people, whereas like I think a lot of like Afro pessimists come to the conclusion that it's almost impossible to collaborate politically with people if you are Black, because, you know, the means to the ending is never gonna coalesce. You know, it almost seems impossible because like people aren't willing to abolish their own self-interests, their own privileges that are sustained from anti-Blackness. So there's gray area between Black anarchism and Afro pessimism. But a lot of the more well-known Black anarchists who, you know, have more of a standing are Ashanti Alston, or Lorenzo Komboa Ervin from the Black Autonomy Federation, or I've talked about Frank Wilderson before, who's like more of an Afro-pessimist. Hawasi Balagoon, but he wasn't necessarily calling himself like a Black anarchist. And that's another interesting thing, is like talking about Black anarchism and how, you know, what we call Black people freedom struggles and like living their life, some other people, some other Black anarchists or Black thinkers would call Black anarchism. I love how Saidiya Hartman was talking about Black women and femmes back in days when slavery was quote unquote just recently abolished, that a lot of the ways that people were kind of like living outside of law and order to make ends meet, whether it be sex work or whether it be stealing from, you know, rich enterprises or stealing from these plantations, was also like these kind of forms of Black anarchism that weren't necessarily acknowledged as like Black anarchism or like Black revolt. Slaves freeing themselves from the ownership of their masters and doing everything that they needed to do in order to stop that proprietary obligation that they had to their masters by unaliving and ending their masters, is like what's more Black anarchist than that? So I fucks with it heavy because, you know, a lot of people had to do a lot of really intense things in order to free themselves, in order for me to experience the kind of freedoms that I do have. Even if like I'm at the quote-unquote bottom of the barrel when it comes to humanity and what have you, being Black, trans, disabled, you know, radical, I think all of those marginalizations still, like, I'm feeling the kind of freedoms, at least at this point in my life, that my ancestors and other Black people have fought for. So those are pretty much all of the different schools of thought that have kind of come to be, because I think, you know, now we're thinking, why anarchism? why anarchism, how anarchism.